Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into The Logo with Logan Chakowski. Have you ever wondered what it's like to have your own podcast? Well, if you haven't yet heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make one. First of all, it's absolutely free, and the best part, you can record right from your device with no equipment needed, invite friends to join without meeting face to face, and even make money from your podcast with no minimal listenership. There are creation tools that allow you to edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, and Anchor will distribute your podcast so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm today. Good luck. Now let's meet our guest.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Logo, the podcast about everything. I'm joined today by not one, but two special guests, friends, roommates, tag team partners, leaders of the Datitude era. We have the Stepdads, Wade Kruger, RadleyBelmont. Guys, how we doing?
We're good. I mean, I never said we were friends. Tag team partners, maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
Secret friends. How are we doing, Logan?
We're doing all right, man. I mean, the world's crazy. Things are starting to look good in my neck of the woods here in the Berwick area. How about you guys? How we looking there?
You never know. Everything changes from day to day, it seems. So just going one day at a time.
Every day is an episode of some form of sitcom we've been signed on.
Yeah.
Speaking of sitcoms, I hear you guys are Full House fans. You check out Fuller House at all?
I've watched some Fuller House, but man, I loved the show as a kid. As an adult, the cheese factor is just off the charts.
Oh yeah.
I could watch the old ones because there's some nostalgia, and also there's Uncle Joey. But it's hard for me to watch the newer one. It's the cheese is out of control.
I agree. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, the wrestling episode's fun, so that's what matters.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, right? So speaking of wrestling, obviously wrestling's been one of the things that has kind of stayed going throughout this entire pandemic. What do you guys think of the product that we've been seeing from wrestling?
I've watched bits and pieces. It's, for me personally, it's very hard to watch without a crowd, just because I know the feeling of being in the ring and the feeling that crowd gives you. Without the crowd, to me, it feels more like a movie, or like you could go back and fix things, but there's something so exciting about those moments that just happen organically that it's hard to replicate that without a crowd, I feel like.
Yeah, when it comes to us personally, we're very character-based. We interact with the crowd so much. That's such a big part of what we do that I'm sure for a lot of wrestlers, be it AEW, WWE, anywhere, it's got to be like they're missing a key component in their arsenal every time they go out there. Even if there are a few, other wrestlers and whatnot out there next to the ring, it's not the same as that genuine crowd reaction and interaction. That being said, they're still doing an amazing job for the fact that there's so few people there.
It's like they're like really great fight scenes in a movie. Like the stuff is really good. It's just, for personally, there's something missing. It's, even if they had the wrestlers, like I know they have wrestlers in the crowd in some situations, but if like you had the wrestlers like surrounding the ring almost like a fight club, banging on the mat and stuff, just to bring up the intensity, I would love to see something like that, even if just in like a big feud match, almost like a lumberjack match, but without being a lumberjack match, just them being out there, being a crowd would be really cool. It would add something for me that is missing at the moment.
There's a few promotions in the past. Shakar has done it. Backbreakers Entertainment had the tag team roster come out for a big tag team title match. PWA Connecticut had that, where the wrestlers would surround the ring during the entire show before they're called into the ring for matches. That kind of energy is essential,
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I've been a wrestling fan for a majority of my life, and just from a fan experience and a fan's point of view, it is completely different to watch. I mean, I still love it. It's pro wrestling. I'm always gonna enjoy it. But yeah, I do agree. It's completely different. It's a sport where you need that fan reaction and the characters to kind of stand out better with that fan reaction. And I was talking to a group of my friends, and we're both like, it's so cheesy now because like you can hear them talking and you hear like everything. It's just so different.
It very much hurts the illusion. And even think about like you watch some of these shows, and some of the most famous things are the Ms. Girl, or like the reactions that you get that just happen.
The Undertaker street guy.
Yeah, or not even just the fans. Sometimes just things that happen where maybe guys will mess something up, but they'll fix it on the fly, and it'll create this awesome moment or a very real reaction that maybe they were expecting something to go a certain way. It feels neutered a little bit. Like there's not an unpredictability about it, because you know that if they messed it up, they could go back and film it again. So it's weird that way.
Yeah, there's a magic to wrestling being one take and you're done, and sometimes that's going to be lost for the moment. But another thing that I'm just thinking about right now is how it's probably a little easier for wrestlers who have toured in Japan, because of the fact that the crowd is silent, especially people that were trained in Japan. They're going to have a little more know-how on how to, communicate in the ring without the audience hearing them. An audience that most of the time is dead quiet and paying full attention. So that's probably benefiting them. Obviously, we don't have any insight on that right now, but I can only imagine that's only a plus.
Right. I completely agree. Now, you guys had mentioned in a previous statement, you talk about Backbreakers Entertainment. We're going to get into the tag team tournament you guys were involved in recently. Before we do that, let's just talk about how you guys got your start. Wade, I don't know if you want to begin. Radley, however you guys want to go, but just tell us, how'd you get your guys' start in pro wrestling, and what was that moment that it kind of said, okay, I want to do this?
Well, it's funny. I mean, our story through pro wrestling pretty much intertwines all the way through. Mm-hmm. I mean, we both Radley was trained out in Vegas before I knew him, but it was like on and off training, because there was a lot of stuff going on over there. But we both met each other through backyard wrestling together. We both backyarded together for a lot of years.
And when we talk about backyard wrestling, we're not talking weapons on a mattress.
Like we had a ring in a backyard.
Real rings, people who were trained, helping us get better, actually trying to have matches.
Yeah.
Sure, actual backyard, not the stuff you see right now.
Yeah, right, like guys who would actually have been trained would come and hang out and show us how to run the ropes and stuff like that. So we had a little bit of a leg up in that regard, that we were doing that for a lot of years. And then a lot of our friends stopped, got older, whatever, it happens.
Yeah, they moved on. Like
we kind of both felt like we were just hitting our stride of like what we were capable of, and we wanted to keep going. So we both got trained. We were both doing different things separately of each other. I was a singles guy. I was an angry, quiet, like from the woods mountain man. And
the Kodiak.
Yeah, I was the Kodiak Kruger. And Radley was a Las Vegas sleazy scumbag in a tag team.
Yeah.
We were both heels, which is kind of funny. And we both just weren't vibing with what we were doing. So we decided to try the tag team, which came from a joke from backyard days. The name was actually it was my fantasy football name. We were called the Stepdads because we beat you and you hate us. It was a heel thing. It was like a cocky thing. But we were like, what if we just take it and run with it and become dads? And how would a dad wrestle?
And not just dads, because there's a lot of wrestling dads out there, but we wanted to be sitcom dads and have that extra element of it.
And something too that like there's wrestlers out there who are just dads. They work fanny packs. They are dads. They are a wrestler who is a dad. We try to play it as if we are dads who on the weekend are wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like why we still have regular wrestling gear, but like we act like dads is kind of the way.
You think about like if there's a wrestling episode of your favorite show, they wouldn't just get in the ring in their normal clothes that you see every episode. They would try to have some sort of wrestling attire. So in our headset, this is kind of our wrestling episode, if you will.
Yeah. So we started doing the Stepdads thing in places that would let us try it out. We workshopped it a little bit at Warriors of Wrestling on their studio tapings. made connections through that, and it just started to roll, and it was way bigger than anything we were doing separately. So we just kind of stuck with it, and it's been rolling ever since.
Yeah, it's been rolling like an avalanche. We've been getting way more shows than we expected, way more bookings. We've met people we never thought we'd meet. We've wrestled people we didn't think we'd wrestle, and that all came from just being a good person backstage and trying to have fun. And I think having fun is extremely important, especially at this level of pro wrestling. Trying to bring that level of fun, not just yourself, but to the entire match and to the locker room.
And with what's going on in these downtimes, very important to not be a jerk. That's just it's crazy how far just being someone people want to be around is helpful.
Yeah. You think that would go without saying?
Yeah,
but...
that's a tip for anyone who's thinking about being a wrestler out there. You would think that would be given, but a lot of people.
There you go. 2 tips for young wrestlers: try new things and don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Great insight here from the Stepdads. So, wait, you mentioned your singles career, so you could kind of give this perspective, but what are your guys' takes on the differences between, obviously there's big differences, but the psychology of a match and an angle and a storyline compared from tag team wrestling as opposed to singles wrestling? What does that look like, and what are the differences?
I think tag wrestling as opposed to singles wrestling just gives you so many more options because there's twice as many people involved. So it gives you ins and outs and ways to extend a feud that a singles can't, which I think is really interesting, and I don't think it's utilized enough. I'm sure Radley could go into some of the stuff that he like.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, the main thing you're saying, think of like your favorite movie. Your favorite movie doesn't have 2 characters, just maybe for the finale of the movie. Yeah. But a great story usually has multiple characters doing multiple things. And the fact that we're on the same team also makes it different from a 4-way where everyone is just fighting each other randomly, it seems, to win a match. We're really trying to tell a specific story about our team trying to beat their team. And we can have A plots and B plots, and we can have interconnecting stuff to past matches. I would say tag team wrestling has more potential for storytelling than most wrestlers even understand or know.
Yeah, you have 2 brains in there on each side. So even if you just look at it from the kayfabe aspect of it, I could do something that maybe Radley wouldn't agree with in the ring, but it wins us a match, so maybe he goes with it. That's like an extra little layer that could be added.
Yeah, and our characters, we are the Stepdads, and we're very similar to our real life personas. We're practically the same thing. But even in doing that, we're very different people when it comes to how we approach being our respective stepdad and our style of wrestling. He's a bigger guy. He does bigger things. I'm more technical, but he's louder. It goes back and forth.
I get to play angry dad, and Rad is more fun dad. But occasionally we could switch that up, and it keeps things fresh in a way that it's hard to be a singles guy without changing. Turning heel or face entirely.
Yeah.
Like one of us could do something a little bit underhanded and it could slide and play a part in something that's going to happen a year later. Or you could plant seeds because it's 2 characters that are similar but different. And when you add in another team that's doing the same thing, it adds so many potential levels if you're really paying attention and working it the right way.
Not to mention, if you are wrestling a lot of the same areas, we luckily wrestle in multiple states. We were before the quarantine. We were wrestling multiple different states. But even so, if we're there for a long time, you're going to see a lot of the same people who they don't want to see the exact same match every time. And luckily with us, we can switch things up, do different moves in different ways. And if they know us, we can even do stuff that we know they won't expect. And that's a lot of fun.
Right. I totally understand. We had Matt Turner on here recently. A guy I'm pretty sure you guys have worked with in the past.
No. We love Matt.
Yeah, he is absolutely excellent. He and his tag team partner, Blue and Gold, one of our absolute favorite teams to wrestle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, he mentioned kind of like what you guys are saying, how tag team wrestling is just great. Like how you have 2 brains on each side. You throw in the ref. A couple teams even have managers. It's just a great thing to see. And I really like, especially with AEW more than WWE, I liked what I'm seeing from tag team wrestling as opposed to like the TV side of things. I don't know what you guys think about tag team wrestling.
Well, we've
TV.
actually gotten this question recently, and I love what AEW is doing, and I'll say the same thing I said there, which is every team over there is not even just 2 guys. Almost all of them are 3 guys because they're all like little factions.
Yeah.
So
really think about it. Dark Order, multiple guys. Best Friends has Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
You got the Death Triangle.
So you could have these 6-man tags. You could have any combination of the 3 guys in a tag match against the same 3 guys on the other side. But if you mix it and match it the right way, you've created like 9 different matches with the same guys. And it the creativity is bigger because it's different guys do different things. So watching how 2 guys mesh together with the 3rd guy out is a lot of fun. I think that's one thing AEW is doing that's really good to keep things fresh.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that they do see the AEW World Tag Team titles as a main event title. They see top tag teams as main event tag teams, and we are high believers, very high believers that tag team wrestling can main event, and honestly should main event. We've main evented multiple shows for True Wrestling, New York Championship Wrestling. I'm sure there's a couple I'm not remembering off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, tag team wrestling it's one of the oldest gimmick matches. If you think about it, it's 4 guys as opposed to 2, and because of that, it's really hard to compare a singles match with a tag match. If they're both done perfectly, I think it's very hard for a singles match to compete with a tag match if all things are equal and everyone is on the same page, same level. And I think it's very hard to compete.
Arn Anderson said that in an interview, I think 2 or 3 years ago. He said if you took a great singles match and a great tag team match, the great tag team match should be the main event every time. You can't get better than a great tag team match.
Right, and that's I'm kind of glad you brought up Arn Anderson because it kind of brings you to my next topic. Normally when I have wrestlers on here, I ask kind of fun questions, stuff like who would you want your tag team partner at, like stuff like that, and Mount Rushmores. I'm kind of interested in your guys' takes on the Mount Rushmore from a tag team standpoint. Who do you guys think are in the Mount Rushmore of tag teams?
Do 2 and I'll do 2. Or you want to do?
You do 4 and I'll do 4.
Oh,
we'll each do our own.
All right. Well, we'll do one each as we go then.
Sure.
For me, my absolute favorite tag team is the Rock and Roll Express. I've been watching them since I was a kid. Not that I'm super old, but I have been watching them since their WCW days. Went back to the NWA days. Currently watch them in the NWA. I absolutely love the Rock and Roll Express. I love their style. I love their psychology of wrestling. They can have these amazing, exciting matches where they're not going through tables and that stuff. You care about the match because of the story they're telling in the ring. And a punch is as good as a Canadian Destroyer there because you care. You care so much about seeing Ricky get to Robert and get that tag. And I absolutely love the Rock and Roll Express. So that's my first.
My first, I'm gonna go ENC, Edge and Christian. Loved Edge and Christian. I think they're one of the most underrated teams because they were in the same time with the Hardys and the Dudleys. But I think without Edge and Christian, the dynamic of those 3 teams falls apart entirely because they had so much charisma. I mean, the Hardys had natural charisma. People liked them because of what they were doing. The Dudleys weren't able to carry over the heat that they had from ECW. Edge and Christian, you wanted to see them get beat up because they were such pompous jerks. They added so much to the dynamic, and they were both great wrestlers. And I think even as great as they were, they both elevated each other. They weren't just 2 singles guys thrown together. They elevated each other as a tag team. So that would be one of mine.
My number 2 would be Midnight Express with Jim Cornette. Just like the Rock and Roll Express, they made you care so much. The Midnight Express made you hate them. Even if you didn't care about the other person in the ring, they would make you care because you hate them so much. Not just because they were dastardly. A lot of tag teams miss the point of being dastardly. That's good for heat, but you should also be so good that it should be annoying that you're being dastardly. Like, you don't need to be dastardly. That's a whole another level to your heat. and to have that kind of creative continuity in their matches, to constantly have that anger of just stop cheating, stop being so annoying, and they're so good that it worked, especially with Jim Cornette running his mouth the whole time.
My number 2, I'm gonna go Legion of Doom. It's really hard to not include them because as a kid watching them for like the first time, they were both just these absolute powerhouses. And compare them to guys like Demolition, who even in their prime were not quite on the level of an aesthetic.
I would argue Demolition never had the presence.
Yeah. These guys looked like you could put them in as a tag team. They could stand up to any 2 guys as big as they were on the roster. The champs, it didn't matter. They looked like they could go in there and put up a damn good fight with them and really, like, they had that presence that I feel like hasn't been felt it's rare. They really felt like in an age where singles, and WWE's always pushed singles first and foremost, they could go in there and kick anyone's ass and be on the same level as them. And I think that was a big thing I had never seen before until I saw them.
Oh yeah, I agree. Especially, yeah.
And they have a great.
Definitely in that time when wrestling was very technical and slow, having the Road Warriors come in and just fight.
Yeah, very
different.
There was something very Japanese about it, where they just killed guys. They just wrecked them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll definitely say the nostalgia factor is there. I mean, the face paint.
Exactly. Everything about them was perfect. Like, it was perfect for them. Neither guy was lesser than the other. It felt that they were both crucial to the team.
Another thing I would argue is when people talk about wrestlers, they might do let me tell you something, brother. But most people that don't know wrestling think of a guy in face paint yelling at the screen. That's Hawk.
Yeah.
Everyone who doesn't know wrestling that tries to pretend to be a wrestler is just mimicking Hawk. So that shows how much they transcended wrestling.
Do you want to go with your number 3?
My number 3 would be, we already mentioned them, Arn and Tully.
Yeah.
Whether they were the Horsemen or the Brainbusters.
I'm letting you handle old school, by the way, if you haven't noticed.
I appreciate that because I'm very old school, and I feel like old school needs to return in a lot of ways. The Revival had an interview about that recently where they said just the fact that nobody does these things anymore makes it new and fresh, and I absolutely agree with that. Arn and Tully told a story that wasn't emotional as it was physical. They would work up a specific body part. They would only cheat near the end of the match when they became desperate. It was a very different type of storytelling that I appreciated, that worked very well when they were the champions, because it's kind of there's a different type of psychology when you're the champion, and some people don't know that. It makes a lot of heel champions look very weak, in my opinion. And Arn and Tully understood when to cheat, why they were cheating, and when not to cheat, when to actually look like they probably are the best tag team in the world, unless, they slip on a banana peel. And I feel like that is missing in a lot of wrestling these days. I hope it comes back with teams like the Revival. I really do.
Here's an underrated one that I feel like Brad's might guess that I would throw in here.
Oh, yeah?
The Faces of Fear.
Oh, okay.
Ming and Barbarian. Okay. They were, in a lot of ways, WCW, like in the late 90s, they could go out there and have a good match with just about anybody. And I don't think they got enough credit for how good they were. They did a lot of stuff similar. They are similar in my mind to LOD on a smaller scale, where they were these 2 powerhouses that just, you felt like they could go in there and just wreck anybody and just really.
You're talking about a team that also had an aura.
Yeah, they had a legit aura around them that, like, I feel like the APA had to an extent too.
Yeah.
Where it felt like they could go in there and just legitimately beat up whoever they were in there with, regardless of what it was planned to happen. Ming has this legendary status to him, and Barbarian is a very underrated worker. I feel like he could do a lot of stuff, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think they were a thrown together team that kind of came at the wrong time of WCW to be utilized well.
Yeah. WCW did not care about tag teams.
If you watch like those mid 90s like Nitros and stuff, they're having crazy matches on the undercard that like no one talks about. And I have the character of them that comes out just through their presence is a big thing for me.
Yeah. No, I understand. I think Barbarian is underrated because his singles run was not that spectacular. Yes. But as a tag team, I think he is underrated. He's a tag team wrestler.
He hid his weaknesses.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things about tag wrestling.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all. For a guy who might be an okay singles wrestler to be a great tag team wrestler, I don't see that as a weakness at all. I see that as a different style. It's like if you say, "Oh, this guy is an amazing deathmatch wrestler, but he can't chain, so I guess he sucks." Like that, it's not like that. It's a different style.
So who's your fourth?
Oh, this is very tough. I'm really thinking about it. I'm probably gonna have to go, and it's the fourth one, so it's a revolving door. It could change tomorrow. I'm gonna go with the Hart Foundation.
Okay.
Because of how similar it is to us, really. How they had a distinct personality, distinct attitude, but they also didn't really change their style when they were heels and faces, and I appreciated that. Any heel tactics they had were mostly at the end of the match. Like I said before, if you're going to be a tag team champion, you have to do it properly as heels. Different managers changed that dynamic a little bit, but in the end, they told amazing stories. They were two very distinct wrestlers, although they were quote unquote in the same tag team gimmick. And the Heart Attack is a fantastic double team move, just like the Doomsday Device. You know, there's many memorable tag team finishers back then that were spectacular. I feel like they are underrated, so I'll put them on my list.
This last one for me is tough because it could go between any of three. I'm trying to do a more recent, and depending on the day, I feel like it could be any of Steen and Generico,
that's good, yeah.
Roderick Strong and Jack Evans, or the Briscoes. I'm going to say the Briscoes because the first indie show I ever went to was an ROH show, and the Briscoes made their return on the show, and it just set things off in a way I've never seen in a show. Everything they did was amplified to 20. And they're two guys, I mean, they're brothers who look very similar, but you could immediately differentiate them from the way they wrestle. Mm-hmm. They're both, Jay can do a brawler and a technical, and he could do a little bit of everything. And Mark is just willing to go out there and try and do anything, which I really appreciate. That era of like late 2000s,
mid to late,
to ROH, where those guys were just, I mean, they're still great now, but I mean, they've for almost 20 years now been unreal and doing it at a level that not a lot of people get to see, which is a shame because they are phenomenal, separate or together. And I love watching them do whatever they do.
Yeah, there's a lot of honorable mentions. Obviously, the Revival. I would say early Steiner Brothers is spectacular in a strong style psychology. And I'm sure there's a ton of Japanese tag teams we're just not thinking of.
Yeah.
But, you know, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Honorable mention for me, Kensuke Sasaki and Nakajima in Japan. Loved watching those two guys. Young boy, mentor situation. Really awesome.
I would even throw in Kenny and Ibushi.
Yeah,
as a fantastic team, and Young Bucks. I don't want anyone to think we don't like the Young Bucks.
I love the Young Bucks. Yeah. I mean, I got to see them way back in the day. They're unreal.
I saw them in Las Vegas.
They're in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, they're like pretty boy West Coast Briscoes, like doing really crazy stuff that no one's seen.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you guys kind of answered my next question, but those are great. Mount Rushmores. My next question was going to be, based off of who you have in your Mount Rushmores currently, and you look at current tag team wrestling from any promotion across the globe, what one tag team do you feel one day, or maybe they're on it currently, has potential to be a part of your Mount Rushmore?
I'm trying to think of ones that maybe we haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah, it's hard to say because anybody can explode in talent and popularity anytime.
Yeah. Gosh. I mean, the Young Bucks for sure could be there. I mean, they could be there now.
Yeah.
That's not even predicting much.
Our fourth chair is constantly revolving.
The workhorse, like they're not the Workhorsemen.
The Workhorsemen are good. I would say Besties in the World, actually, from
Yeah.
Evolve could be an amazing tag team.
LAX.
Yeah.
Yeah. Santana and Ortiz. That would be my pick. They are so good and only getting better all the time.
And the Lucha Brothers as well. Amazing team. Also amazing singles wrestlers. Very established as singles wrestlers, but they also have a tag team style to them as well. It's not just. It doesn't feel like two singles wrestlers getting thrown together.
Yeah, that's how I feel about with LAX. Is like they seem to develop more and more personality and character as time goes on, where it's only making them more entertaining to watch. There is like a little bit of an ENC vibe in there, where like they're doing cool stuff and being fun with it, and like really finding themselves in their characters.
Yeah, they're the definition of great wrestlers who sprinkle sports entertainment into their wrestling, as opposed to being great sports entertainers.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you mentioned some great names. Kind of going into names now. Where exactly did you guys come up with your names, Wade Kruger and Radley Belmont?
Funny, I gave Rad his name and he gave me my name. But or at least the last names. Wade and Rad were actually both part of our backyard wrestling names. I was Patrick Wade Wilson for Deadpool, Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, also my middle name, but a little of both. So I took the Wade. I liked Wade. No one was really using Wade. Wade Barrett, I guess. I liked Wade Barrett, so it didn't matter. Kruger was kind of. I wanted something evil sounding because it was supposed to be for a heel name, and it was Kodiak Kruger. It just kind of fit. Now it's kind of funny to me because I'm supposed to be a dad, and I'm named after this character who gives kids horrible nightmares. So I think that's kind of ironic. I kind of wish I had picked something else because it gets spelt wrong on like every poster, which you would think it wouldn't because Freddy Krueger's pretty popular, but here we are.
Hey, at least it's correct on Cage Match, so there you go. I don't even have a Cage Match account.
Yeah, well, I didn't make it, so.
Yeah, Well, for mine, I used to backyard wrestle as Radley Hazardian, a.k.a. Rad Hazard, trying to be extreme and cool. But my actual nickname was Rad. I wore shirts that said Rad all the time, so that's been my nickname for a very long time now. So I wanted to incorporate that since I knew that all the people I used to know was going to call me Rad anyway, so Radley made perfect sense. Belmont was a decision that my friend here gave me because I was trying to find something more distinct. I had
like something a little stuck up, I think.
Yeah, a little snooty, a little high end, just something and a little different. The Belmonts are in Castlevania, but I wasn't even thinking about that really, even though it also fits that.
I said Belmont because it sounded kind of snooty, but also I love Castlevania.
Yeah, and there you go. And Castlevania is great, so why not?
And it just kind of rolled off the tongue once we put it together, and I guess it stuck.
Yeah, I loved it, and we kept going with it, and then we ended up teaming together, so it worked out just fine.
Cool. So, beginning of the show, you guys mentioned Backbreakers Entertainment. Recently, it was posted about 2 weeks ago. I saw it on YouTube. Backbreakers Entertainment had a tag team tournament. And one thing that stood out to me throughout the entire show, you guys came out with a thermostat and a newspaper. What's the story behind the thermostat and the newspaper?
Well,
is that just to go along with your stepdad's character?
We tried a whole bunch of different stuff over the past couple of years of like stuff to come to the ring with. Occasionally, I'll come out with golf club. Rad used to come out with a pipe. I used to come out with glasses on, like reading glasses. They just kept getting lost, so I abandoned that. It didn't add much to the look. The newspaper is something that stuck right away. It just fit. We try to find newspapers on the way to shows that are kind of local, but also have a funny headline. We've had ones that say like "Do Your Job," which is a funny one for wrestling, or like stuff like that. Stuff that's funny, and if someone picks it up, it's like an added joke. And then Rad, being the technical guy, worked it into the spot where he sits on the guy's back and ties him up and reads the paper. So it fits. And we bring it out every time because you never know we're going to do that.
Yeah, we try. We actively think about every time we go to the same promotion. We try to have different attire, and we don't bring back the same attire for up to a year at a time, depending on the show. I even have a robe that has foam spikes on it, so I can come out as the robe warrior. I mean,
yeah, or we've been Dad Generation X and come out with glow sticks.
Mm-hmm. The old age in-laws.
Yeah. The thermostat specifically came from an idea from one of our good brothers in the locker room,
Fox Vineyard.
Regular in PPW and in the New England area. He kind of was like, in his mind, he's like, you can't go silly enough. Like, there's no such thing as too silly. And while that's not exactly our feeling, it just, he threw out so many ideas that we kind of were able to pick, like, what would be funny, what would work, and that one just stuck. Other ideas he gave us was a welcome mat. We have a welcome mat at our, if you come over to buy merch from us, you got to wipe your feet off. We've put it on the apron before, so we wipe our feet before we go in the ring every time. But the thermostat has become a big one, and we've just been finding new ways to incorporate it with the, if someone touches it, we turn into the Undertaker dads, and we sit up and we freak out. It's like Popeye getting his spinach when you touch the dad's thermostat.
Exactly. Hulks us up, and then we take you down.
We think of it as like the thermostat is our urn. We don't have a pallbearer to hold on to it, so if someone gets a hold of it and we find out,
that's right,
it's bad news.
It's our holy grail. So at the end of the day, if we happen to lose a championship or two, we're still the masters of the thermostat. No one can take that away from us.
Isn't it funny how, like, the world of pro wrestling is so great? Like, even the littlest things, like you mentioned the pipe, you mentioned, like, the newspaper. Radley, I see you come out with a sweater on a lot. The littlest things can lead to the most amazing
absolutely, and we come out in sweaters. We come out in summer attire for the summer. We would have if there were shows right now.
Yeah, like fishing shirts or Hawaiian shirts and leis and straw hats.
And going out and giving leis to the kids when you're walking out to the ring, they love that stuff, and it makes a connection with them that any wrestler who just walks out and raises their hands is not going to get immediately. So it helps us connect to the fans way faster as well.
Cool. So we'll get into some more fun wrestling questions a little bit later. One thing that has been on my mind for a while, a couple weeks ago, I had another friend of yours, Matt Durline, wrestler from True Wrestling. He's wrestled in other promotions as well. He told me specifically to ask you, Wade, about your hockey.
Well, not even just hockey cards. I'm a big autograph collector. Probably, I did a little bit when I was a kid, but probably seriously for about 10 years now. And I have binders and binders of signed photos, cards, not even just hockey, baseball, football, basketball, celebrities, UFC, not so much wrestling, weirdly enough. Anytime I've been at a show where I met like a famous wrestler, I'd rather get a picture than an autograph. That's just a weird personal thing.
Plus, they're kind of like your peers now.
So. Well, yeah, but even before, I think the only ones I have is like Goldberg, and
go Fear the Spear,
and that's his real name anyway. So, but yeah, I have in the range of 8x10s, cards, pucks, baseballs, well over 3,000 autographs. It's actually in the room I'm sitting in right now.
Yeah, no exaggeration.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, currently, like one of my favorite things I've done recently is I have a photo, an 8x10 photo of the a couple years ago was the NHL's, to go with hockey. It was the NHL's 100th anniversary, so they named the 100 greatest NHL players. And over the past couple years, I've put 25 signatures on it out of the 100 on one photo. So that's a really cool one in my collection that I've been working on the last couple of years.
Okay, cool. So I bet
Oh,
you're
I
excited
mean,
that
kind
hopefully
of.
hockey's going to get started
It's
up
been
here
a long
shortly.
break, and now it's coming back, and my team is still one of the few teams that's not going to be playing. So, as a Devils fan, it's a little rough to watch 24 teams playing, and my team is one of the 7 that's not. You've had a good run.
I'm a Penguins
I have
fan,
very
so
little ill will towards the Penguins. They've not as much as I used to. You guys aren't the Rangers
No.
or the Flyers, so you're cool with me.
So back to wrestling. So another fun question I have for you guys, besides each other, who would you, if you were to start your wrestling career tomorrow, who would you want to have as your tag team partner and why? Anybody in any era, could be past.
See, I'd
present,
probably
future,
wherever. My answers aren't going to be like that interesting because I feel like I'd go someone with a similar level than me. Like I wouldn't pick like Shawn Michaels or like.
Oh, you want to be Marty Jannetty? Is that what you're saying?
I'm already Marty Jannetty. I don't need to be Marty Jannetty.
Hashtag to Marty Jannetty.
You don't want.
But I always try to think of guys that are a contrast to my style. So I would want either another technical guy like Rad. I'd probably go with like a more flippy guy to have like that acrobatic wrestling and then the powerhouse. I mean, Jack Evans would be right there. I did love Roderick and Jack Evans for that reason that I loved watching Roderick throw Jack around. And I always thought that was highly entertaining. So he would be right high on the list for sure.
I mean, honestly, my first thought, and it's kind of for some reason still my number one, is I would be thinking about saving my body. I mean, even if I started wrestling tomorrow, I would care so much about entertainment value and character work. I would care about psychology. Even though I am a more technical wrestler, I don't always show it. And that's fine because then when I show it, it's surprising, which is almost exactly like Orange Cassidy. So in teaming with Orange Cassidy, I would do all those things. I would say, right? I mean, I really wouldn't have to do anything, which is the point. And I would have an amazing time doing it with a guy that I think is really fun. So
another guy I would definitely put on the list for me would be a guy like Danhausen. Could be the Dadhausens. We're both. You know, it's that unlikely combination. You know, he's got his face painted. I think he's a wacky kid who should get a job. He thinks I'm an old man, but we both hate cursing and we find some similar ground to stand on. I think that would be a lot of fun.
there you go.
Or even,
I like that.
I mean, we think of all the time. We're always thinking of guys who would be fun to have in a trio. He's right up on the list. Orange Cassidy's been on the list before. Effie would be a lot of fun. We'd be the Stepdaddies.
Don't forget the Buff Daddies with Buff Bagwell.
Buff Bagwell is a perfect third addition to be the Buff Daddies.
That almost happened.
Yeah, that did almost happen one time. So guys like that guys who are characters are guys that we'd really love to team with.
Like, unfortunately, he passed a while back, but I think Larry Sweeney would have been an amazing part of a trio with us. And there's so many. I feel like we're gonna miss out on tons of people.
You guys are like reading my mind when it comes to this. You keep answering my next questions, but before we get on to that, let's hear more about this.
There was supposed to be.
I couldn't make it to the show.
There was a show that. Did the show even end up happening?
The show happened. So the month before we had debuted for New York Championship Wrestling, we were in the main event because tag team wrestling can main event, and we won the tag team titles. We were their inaugural champions.
Yeah.
And they wanted us to continue main eventing until they had a heavyweight champion, which was something like 5-6 months down the line. So the next show, I told the promoter ahead of time. I was like, "Listen, I want you to know I cannot make this show." I think I don't remember what it was.
Maybe a wedding.
I think
or
I had a
family
wedding
gathering. Oh, it was family. It was your girlfriend's family.
Yeah.
Because they all canceled, and that was why you could go.
That's right. So just keep that in mind. So my girl's family had a thing that got canceled, but we didn't know at the time. I told him before we even won the titles. He was like, "That's fine. We're probably gonna have Buff Bagwell here, so maybe he'll team with Wade as the Buff Daddies." And I don't know what happened with that specifically. It was in the cards. It was a part of the show.
There was actually another person under consideration to tag with me as well, which was Adam Rose.
Yes.
Which was funny to me.
Who is now retired.
Yes. Would have been entertaining for me because his NXT name before Adam Rose was Leo Kruger. So I would have just played it off that we were like cousins.
Yeah.
But ultimately, neither of those ended up happening.
And I was able to go to the show.
Yeah, because Rad had to end up showing up. So I got screwed out of wrestling with like real wrestlers because Rad had to actually be there.
Oops. I'll try to not show up more often.
Come on,
it
Rad.
seems to work really well for you, actually. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, but you guys kind of mentioned some names. I'm a huge fan of factions. Of course, you have the Four Horsemen, you have NWO, you have the Bullet Club, the Inner Circle. WWE just released recently the Best of the Nexus. If you guys were to add 2 more people to make kind of like a 4-person faction, almost like a Four Horsemen, who would you want in it and why?
So we have
this is from
thought
your
about
peers,
this for
people you
years
wrestle
now,
against
some
or
sort of
wrestle
step family dynamic, because we're in a very rare position that we're the stepdads, so we can have potential stepdaughters, stepmoms, I don't know, maybe a pet
Like
if we
your
get some
own
sort
kids,
of beast on the team. The options for us are limited, but at the same time limitless to whoever we want to like put in those positions.
Yeah, it's funny. There's so many stable options for us. It could be all dads.
Yeah, I thought about that. We give a four stepdads or a couple of dads, and we'll be the forefathers.
Yeah. So that would include guys like, I mean, it would depend on who was available, but there's a guy out in the Midwest named Dan the Dad would be perfect for it. Danhausen again, Effie.
Dadhausen.
Yeah. Chris Dickinson, the Dirty Daddy. Buff Bagwell, the Buff Daddy, obviously. So like any of those would be fun in a 4-person faction. And then we've thought about it before with like one of our ideas we have a friend who wrestles sporadically in the New Jersey area and in New York. This big buff guy. His name is Tyrannosaurus Flex, Ezekiel James. It is a great name.
That alone should get him booked right there.
One of the ideas we had, he's like 6'4", jacked. One of our ideas was we would introduce him as our stepson. Like someone comes out for a match and it's like a random guy. Like it's set up like a job match. The guy comes out first. We come out and we're like, hey, would it be okay if our son wants to wrestle and be like his dad's, And we thought this would be a good opportunity to get his feet wet. Would it be okay if he came out to have this match? And then this huge jack dude comes out with like a varsity jacket with like the sleeves ripped off.
He doesn't even say words. He just screams.
Yeah, he's just like the guy from Revenge of the Nerds who screams "nerds" the whole movie. That guy Ox, that would be like our stepson. And because you think, oh, they have a stepson, it's going to be a kid or it's going to be no, it's this giant jack dude. And then we treat him like he's our like little kid,
like he's fragile and we have to protect him.
Yeah, like we're like, oh man, one day you could be big and strong like us, but he's in way better shape. And then we've had a stepdaughter before, which was fun. We got to only happened once, but like the whole match, we were like, we're trying to get her to like be like her dads and join in on our double teams. And anytime she'd do something, we'd clap and be like, oh, she gets straight A's too. Isn't she great? Blah, blah, blah. And like embarrassing her.
She was very technical. She won the match for us with a dragon sleeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any combination of stuff like that would be great. Stepmom manager would be great, or even a stepmom joining the team. And
RadleyBelmont currently has a stepbrother in Killian McMurphy as well. So that always pops up from promotion to promotion whenever we interact with them in his tag team with AK Willis and his whole faction really.
So there's a lot of different options. I don't know if there's a specific foursome we've considered.
We've even unofficially said Candy Copeland is a stepdaughter.
Yeah, she's one of
multiple media posts.
Yeah, so there's a lot of anyone can be part of the family if they'd like to.
That's the best thing about being a stepdad. We can adopt anybody.
And then just throw them out when we don't need them anymore. Yeah.
There you
Bring it
go.
on.
Tryouts
I'm
today
gonna
for the
just let me get
stepdads.
drunk like Paul
I'm
Abdul
kidding.
first.
So another kind of fun one here. Favorite match that you guys have seen, and favorite match you guys have.
By seen, you mean like seen live on the indies or seen it all?
Like live on the
That's
indies.
a good question.
Watch
There's a
kid,
match I go
like,
back to all the
anything.
time. It's going to be very random, but it's a match that gets me hyped. It's about 10 years ago, Pro Wrestling Noah had a show that was a tribute to Misawa. And one of the matches on it was a team I mentioned earlier, Kensuke Office, Kensuke Sasaki, and Nakajima versus Go Shiozaki and Kenta. And it is insane. It's like 30-something minutes long. Everything in it feels earned. Like no one just takes a move and bumps it. There's like so much. I mean, a few minutes in, Nakajima gets chopped in the face. That's like one of the first things that happens. They just brutalize each other, and they do something I've never seen before. After the match is over, they all shake hands, except Nakajima, who's been brutalized the entire match, just walks up and slaps Kenta in the face, and they just keep going. The match gets me so hyped. It's one of the few matches I could watch over and over and over again and pick up something I enjoy more every time. I know that's a very random answer, but it's a match I love.
You picked a tag team match, so I'll pick a singles match. For me, if you ever want to watch a great Ring of Honor match, I recommend this. It's from ROH Driven. I believe it's 2009.
It's either 8 or 9.
2008 or 9. Nigel McGuinness defends the Ring of Honor World Title
against Morishima.
And it is unbelievable.
I was there.
You were there? Well, you tell him that.
I don't remember as much about that match.
Oh my goodness, what an absolutely brutal affair! And we haven't talked about that strong style that much, but it's a strong style match in front of an American audience, so the audience goes absolutely ballistic for it. I'm just a huge fan of Nigel in general, so his matches with Danielson.
I almost said the match they had in England, the Unified, the Pure title, and
Unified, So that Unified, the Pure Championship versus the World Championship, unifying titles under Pure rules. That match is unreal because of the story of everyone wants Nigel to win, and they're so equally matched. The story is that they're so equally matched that one guy slipping on a banana peel is the only way anybody's going to win. And you can take that story in so many directions. It's one of those times where guys kicking out is okay in my mind because they're so evenly matched, and it's a rarity you can only do with certain people. Omega and Okada is like that, and people are okay with it because of how amazing storytelling is. That they're so equally matched.
One little match I'd like to throw in there real quick, not a little match, but it's a match that shows up on the internet every once in a while, posted in full. Happened in Chikara at King of Trios weekend. It's one of the Young Bucks, I think Nick.
I think it's Nick.
Nick Jackson, El Generico.
Maybe.
It might be Matt. I can't remember. It's one of the Jacksons.
Yeah, you're right. I can't remember.
El Generico, Kota Ibushi, and Jigsaw. And it is an unreal. It's probably the craziest match I've ever seen live. I would look it up if you haven't seen it. Everything they do is insane. Kota and Generico have a sequence that's like 5 minutes long that everything they do gets a crazy reaction. And everyone is living and dying with every near fall, despite the fact that it's elimination and no one has been eliminated yet. They're doing so much that it gets you to forget that there's more guys in the match. So personally, like live, that would be right there. Same with Vin Gerard and Fire Ant was a crazy. Young Lions Cup 6 was a crazy match to see
finals,
live.
Right?
Yeah, it had so much emotion behind it.
As far as live, surprisingly enough, I lived on the West Coast, so I didn't get to see a lot of live indie wrestling until I was already training. But I was there for American Rana 16, I believe it was, which the main event was Zack Sabre Jr. versus what's his name, the Octopus,
Gresham.
Yeah, Jonathan Gresham. 2 out of 3 falls. It was the blow up to their feud, their third match, an amazing
Man.
match. You're talking about a room full of 300, maybe more guys who just partying and drunk and everything. When that match started, everyone shut up and just watched, and it was technical wrestling at its best, but it shows how technical wrestling can be as entertaining as any type of wrestling. Technical wrestling is not boring if you know what you're doing, and those two guys may know technical wrestling better than anybody in the world right now.
It's crazy. I'm not even a death match guy, but a match I would throw out there too is Cage of Death, Danny Havoc versus Sami Callihan. I think it's one of the only singles Cage of Deaths there's ever been. The match was so good. Like there was actual like build to every big spot. It wasn't just a bunch of crazy crap happening. Awesome match. I was there live for that one. I watched it from the like upstairs in the arena, and that was crazy. And then favorite match we've had, I think we're going to agree on this one, so I'll let you go with it.
I would say our 2019 NYCW Match of the Year. From curtain to curtain, we went 33 minutes with the Ugly Ducklings, and we had such an amazing time. The match started with a, 5-minute dance-off. 8-minute dance-off. We had slow motion. They touched the thermostat. There were choke slams. There were stunners.
There were new moves that we had never done before.
Yeah, they were doing moves on us that they'd never done before. It was insanity, and I absolutely loved it. We both really wanted this match for a long time, and we got to wrestle them in a 4-way in New Jersey once, but we really wanted this singles match, and we were able to take all the shackles off. We had no real time limit. We went as long as we wanted.
We had to beg for the match because the promoter was weary about doing these two good guys, two teams that were like the two popular teams against each other. And we were like, no, let us do it. We promise we will be able to tear the house down. And I mean,
and it only made us both more popular. It didn't turn either one of us heel, which is fantastic. And they went on to win the tag team titles, maybe even the next month or the month after that. So it was so much fun. We told a really fun story. And that was the thing. We wanted to have a fun match, and it was there's so much involved in it. But at the time, and now, honestly, now we want matches that challenge us, and they challenged us, and I feel like we were right there with them every step of the way.
I'll throw in 2 quick honorable mentions. Our match against each other, I really did enjoy. We had a match against each other in NYCW.
The Battle of the Stepdads.
Yeah, it went really well, aside from like 1 or 2 wonky things that were out of our control. But I love how the match turned out. And a match that it's available online that if you wanted to check us out, if anyone listening wanted to check us out, Stepdads versus TP5, which they are now known as Young, Dumb, and Broke.
In CZW.
Charlie Tiger and Ellis Taylor. We had the match with them in UWA Elite. It was a web exclusive match. Like we were the opening match of the show. I loved it. It was so much better than anyone expected it to be. It had any right to be. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of really awesome moves in it, like stuff we debuted that night that we kept and still do. The debut of our new finisher, I think, the Parent Trap, was in that match.
Yeah, I believe so.
On Ellis.
A lot of silliness as well early on. I lost a tooth.
Yeah, I knocked Rad's tooth out.
Mm-hmm.
There was comedy between both teams. It just had a little bit of everything, and I really loved the match. Probably my favorite match we've ever had in New Jersey.
I'd also recommend we were the TIW Tag Team Champions, and we got the main event the show against the Main State Posse. And if you've never seen them, highly recommend it because they are phenomenal as well. We went something like 28 minutes with them, and that was another showcase where I got to do a lot of flippy do, and Wade got to show a little strong style, and we got to just wrestle for 30 minutes straight, and we threw out moves that we had never done before in that one as well.
Yeah.
So they were the only team to ever kick out of the Father's Day device. It was fantastic.
Yeah. It was a nice build. And then
that was 1 year in the making too, because the last time we had lost was to them 364 days earlier.
And then finally, we did have a fun street fight once with the first time we won the TIW. It was the only time we won the TIW tag.
We just had them for 15 months.
The time we won the TIW tag titles was in a street fight. That was a lot of fun. It was like all weapons you could find in the garage. So it was old vinyl records and a laundry basket and a VCR, and that was a lot of fun and very out of our comfort zone, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's another way that we wanted to show that we could do any style of wrestling. So to have this street fight, that's from TIW April Assault. We wrestled the Dignified, who were on, I think at the time they had the longest record for tag team titles, and then we beat them. But that also has a great story. 2 months earlier, they broke my arm. They Pillmanized my arm with steel chair. We came back. I had my arm wrapped. The story was really there, and that might be one of my favorite moments to win the titles and have 300 people just going ballistic for us.
Yeah,
and it was very emotional. It might have been the most emotional match I feel like we've had. That was a lot of fun, and unfortunately that team disbanded right after that. But we had a couple matches with them, and it was a great time.
Cool. So one more quick one here before we wrap things up. You mentioned a couple of your finishers, Father's Day Device, the Parent Trap. Obviously, tag teams have been well known for some of their finishers. You have the Dudley Boys with the 3D. You have the Doomsday Device, the Heart Attack. You have it's the Shatter Machine from the Revival. What do you feel was the most devastating finisher
in the
that you've
big
ever seen a tag team
like
do?
The Doomsday Device is hard to beat because like they were doing that on guys who were just so big. Also, Demolition Device also looked deadly. They would really they would like the guys looked like they got broken in half on that move sometimes.
Yeah, they probably did.
Yeah. What was the move you see in the GIF all the time where the back body drop into the Beverly Brothers?
Oh, that's not supposed to be like that.
I know. Horrific maneuver.
Yeah, I hope nobody has to take that.
But probably the craziest one I've ever seen, and it doesn't get a lot of talk because it happened in the Indies. No, it was called the Ode to the Bulldogs, and Jack Evans and Roderick Strong did it. And Roderick Strong would pick a guy up in a burning hammer position, and Jack Evans would jump off of the top turnbuckle onto the guy's chest who was being held by Roderick, and then do a 450 or a moonsault or some sort of twisting press off of the guy's body onto a guy who was laying down. It's unreal to see. If you could find a clip of it on YouTube, ROH takes their stuff down a lot, which is tough to find it. But if you went on YouTube and put in "Ode to the Bulldogs," Roderick, Jack, I'm sure you'd find it. It's unbelievable to see.
Yeah, I was gonna say currently the Hart Foundation is doing a Canadian Destroyer electric chair combo off the top rope.
Yeah,
Teddy Hart, and that's terrifying. But I agree with Wade that the Doomsday Device is the ultimate double team move. And that's why I wanted to utilize it early on in our careers. We do it differently than the Road Warriors, but we wanted a move that no matter how silly we were doing this thing that you really believed that we were going to destroy our opponent and win the match. And that was our extra little offensive move that we could pull out any time, and we would be seen as a threat.
Yeah, it was kind of, we could be silly for a lot of the match, but it felt like all we needed to hit was that one move and it was over because it's such a devastating move. Also, another underrated indie tag team finish, a little bit similar to the Doomsday Device, but a variation of it. Cheech and Cloudy, Up in Smoke, they wrestled in the Indies in the 2000s. They had a finisher called Death by Knees, which was or partly Cloudy with a chance of Cheech. I think they might have called it at one point. Cheech would pick the guy up on his shoulders in a powerbomb position, and Cloudy would go off the top and Shining Wizard the guy who was being held in the powerbomb position, and Cheech would then powerbomb him onto his own knee. So the guy would catch a knee to the face and a knee to the back within like a 3-second span. And I always thought that was really, really cool and looked like it hurt a lot.
I just hope nobody does any form of Steiner Brothers finisher unless they really know what they're doing. I don't need any electric chair, swinging DDTs or Bulldogs or any of that. Unless you really know what you're doing. Let's try to avoid that, guys.
Well, thank you guys so much
anybody
for
who's
coming
listening to
on. Real
this
quick
and
before we go, you
enjoyed
guys got
us
anything
ranting and
you'd like to
raving,
plug?
we post on Facebook, we post on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We even have a TikTok page, believe it or not.
They're all under Stepdads Wrestling.
Stepdads Wrestling. Twitter, it's Stepdads Wrestle.
Yeah, we couldn't get Stepdads Wrestling.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
Don't search Stepdads Wrestling with a space in between. You get really weird kink stuff.
Yeah, we don't want any kids going to the wrong stuff. If you're Googling it, just Google Stepdads Wrestling.
All one word.
As all one word.
You
Come
will
on.
find us.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitter at Wade Kruger1. We're also on Pro Wrestling Tees. We have a couple really cool shirt designs. I highly recommend checking them out.
Oh yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Pro Wrestling Tees /Stepdads. And we also have a Patreon. If you're interested, obviously check us out first before. I'm not expecting anyone to hear our voices and go, I want to sign up for monthly content. But we also have a Patreon at
that's patreon.com/Stepdads Wrestling, and we post upcoming T-shirts. We get custom shirts designs from guys who have made designs for like Aubrey Edwards and AEW, people like that who will take that talent and help us with our T-shirts. We have pictures, tons of stuff, because we get tons of photographs and things like that. Even old backyard wrestling videos. We've wrestled AEW alumni and Chikara alumni
in the backyard.
In the backyard, people that you will recognize, but we're not going to say their names here. You got to go on Patreon and check it out. But that's really it for us. So check us out, Stepdads Wrestling, all one word.
Yep, and Twitter Stepdads Wrestle. That's the only really different one.
Yeah. Without the space, no. Yeah, I have something I have to plug. Check out Tornado Tag Podcast. It's another local PA podcast. A couple of friends of mine do. They have some great content over there. So that's Tornado Tag Podcast, as well as interviews with entertaining people on the IWEP network. A couple guys we talked about. Matt Turner's on there. Andy Header is there a lot. Matt Turner's there a lot. So check them out. Tornado Tag Podcast. Radley, Wade, it's been fun talking wrestling with you. I'd love to stay and chat for so many more hours, but we don't have enough time in this episode to do it. We'll let you guys get back to your stepdad ways.
As Tony Schiavone would say, we're desperately out of time.
Yes.
Hopefully in the near
us.
future.
Thank you.